Colleagues, welcome to this first meeting of this council. As returning officer for Dumfries and Galloway Council, I will open the meeting and chair until I hand over to the council leader. Colleagues, following the appalling massacre in Manchester last night, our council will be flying flags at half-mast on all council buildings today. On behalf of us here in Dumfries and Galloway Council, I would like to send our deepest condolences to the people of Manchester at this time, and of course to those who have tragically lost family, friends and children in this cowardly and appalling atrocity. I am sure we speak for all of Dumfries and Galloway in hoping that those who have been injured make a speedy and full recovery. I would ask that members join me in a minute's silence to both pause for personal reflection and to show support for all those affected. Are we agreed? Shall we begin? Thank you, members. Moving on to the agenda, do we have the Sederunt apologies, please?
Thank you, Returning Officer. We have apologies from 3 members today, Councillors Bell, Brodie and Scobie.
Move on to agenda item 2. As Returning Officer, I can advise that all 43 elected members have signed their declaration and acceptance of office. So at that, concluding that part of the business, I would like to now move on to agenda item 3, the appointment of leader and depute leader of the council. Members are asked to consider the appointment of a leader and depute leader and to agree the level of remuneration of the depute leader. Can I please ask for nominations for the post of leader? Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, Returning Officer. I'd be delighted to propose Ian Crothers as leader and Graham Nichol as deputy leader.
Are there any other nominations? Sorry, who's seconding? Sorry. Councillor Chapter. Are there any other nominations for the post of leader? Councillor Davidson.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. It would be a great pleasure to nominate Councillor Elaine Murray as leader of the Dumfries and Galloway Council.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that.
Do we have any further nominations for the post of leader? Councillor Crothers.
Thanks, Returning Officer. Just in regards to point of clarification, should we be taking them separately as leader and depute, or because we've got one conjoined, obviously, and one at a time, two proposals almost conflict with each other? Advice on that, please.
Happy to confirm that we will take the vote for leader first and then move on to the vote for deputy leader.
We need a chair for the meeting. So we have no further votes. Rona, could you please explain the process?
We have a motion that proposes Councillor Ian Crothers as leader, and we have an amendment that proposes Councillor Elaine Murray as leader. So we're going to vote for the motion for Ian Crothers, the amendment for Elaine Murray. If anyone at any time wants any clarification during the voting process, please just make it aware that you've got a question and we'll hold proceedings. You'll now.
Councillor Marshall.
Just to remind new members that when they vote, if they press on their speaker to actually register their vote.
Thank you. The vote will be by roll call, and that will be in alphabetical order. Councillor Blake.
Motion.
Councillor Campbell.
Amendment.
Councillor John Campbell.
Amendment.
Councillor Crothers, Ian.
Motion.
Councillor Karen Crothers.
Motion.
Councillor Charteris.
Motion.
Councillor Davidson.
Amendment.
Councillor Dempster.
Amendment.
Councillor Dryborough.
Amendment.
Councillor Fairbairn.
Motion.
Councillor Ferguson.
Amendment.
Councillor Gilroy. Councillor Gusty.
Motion.
Councillor Hagman.
Amendment.
Councillor Howie. Councillor Hislop.
Motion.
Councillor Ingalls.
Motion.
Councillor James.
Motion.
Councillor Johnson.
Motion.
Councillor Lever.
Amendment.
Councillor Little.
Amendment.
Councillor McGregor.
Motion.
Councillor Maitland.
Amendment.
Councillor Marshall.
Amendment.
Councillor Martin.
Amendment.
Councillor McClellan.
Amendment.
Councillor McComb.
Amendment.
Councillor McKee.
Amendment.
Councillor Murray.
Amendment.
Councillor Nicholl.
Motion.
Councillor Nicholson.
Amendment.
Councillor Ronnie.
Motion.
Councillor Sloan.
Amendment.
Councillor Stitt.
Amendment.
Councillor Surtees.
Amendment.
Councillor Tate.
Motion.
Councillor Thompson.
Amendment.
Councillor Wilson. Councillor Wood.
Amendment.
And Councillor Young.
Amendment.
The amendment is carried by 25 votes to 15.
Thank you. I can therefore announce that Councillor Lever has been elected Leader of the Council. Oh, sorry. My apologies. I'll let you sort that one out at home. So, Councillor Murray has been appointed.
Councillor Maitland, you wish to say something? Councillor Murray, may I, as leader of the independent group, a female leader, and on behalf of our female councillors, welcome you very much as a leader. I think that's really an important statement that Dumfries and Galloway has made, and I am delighted to see you there. It has been the case in the past. The Labour Party has found it quite difficult to look after its female councillors, and you are a rare and precious thing, so I hope they look after you. Thank you, Councillor Maitland. I think you'll find I'm quite good at looking after myself. I now want to move on to the position of Deputy Leader, and I wish to make a nomination myself with great pleasure to nominate Councillor Rob Davidson as Deputy Leader. Archie?
Thank you very much, Leader, and I'm happy to second that motion.
Can I ask if there are any alternative nominations? Councillor McGregor.
I'd like to welcome you as our first female leader as well. Very, very proud. Excellent. I have great privilege in proposing Graham Nicholl.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Charteris. Can we move to the vote in that case?
Thank you, Leader. We have a motion for Depute Leader to be Councillor Rob Davidson and an amendment for Depute Leader to be Councillor Graham Nicholl.
So it's the opposite way around this time.
Okay. Leader? So you go first. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sorry.
Thank you. Motion.
Thank you. Councillor Blake.
Amendment.
Councillor Dougie Campbell.
Motion.
Councillor John Campbell.
Motion.
Councillor Ian Crothers.
Amendment.
Councillor Karen Crothers.
Amendment.
Councillor Charteris.
Amendment.
Councillor Davidson.
Motion.
Councillor Dempster.
Motion.
Councillor Dryborough.
Motion.
Councillor Fairbairn.
Amendment.
Councillor Ferguson.
Motion.
Councillor Gilroy,
Amendment.
Councillor Gusty,
Amendment.
Councillor Hagman,
Motion.
Councillor Howie,
Motion.
Councillor Hislop,
Amendment.
Councillor Ingalls,
Amendment.
Councillor James,
Amendment.
Councillor Johnson,
Amendment.
Councillor Lever,
Motion.
Councillor Little,
Motion.
Councillor McGregor,
Amendment.
Councillor Maitland,
Motion.
Councillor Marshall,
Motion.
Councillor Martin,
Motion.
Councillor McClelland,
Motion.
Councillor McComb,
Motion.
Councillor McKee,
Motion.
Councillor Nicholl,
Amendment.
Councillor Nicholson,
Motion.
Councillor Ronnie,
Amendment.
Councillor Sloan,
Motion.
Councillor Stitt,
Motion.
Councillor Surtees,
Motion.
Councillor Tate,
Amendment.
Councillor Thompson,
Motion.
Councillor Wilson,
Motion.
Councillor Wood,
Motion.
Councillor Young.
Motion.
In this case, the motion is carried by 25 votes to 15.
The report we are considering also refers to the regulations under which remuneration of councillors is determined and confirms that they provide for the deputy leader to receive a maximum of 75% of the salary of the leader, which equates to a maximum for 2017-18 of £25,392. Is this agreed? Thank you. Rob and I would like to... Sorry, Councillor Crowthers.
I agree with the recommendations as outlined by yourself, Leader. I would like to have my dissent recorded, but I'm not really. That's how I feel. But certainly, congratulations to both you and Rob in regards to your positions as leader and deputy. If you want to convey that.
Thank you, Councillor Carruthers. Rob and I would like just to say a few words. I'm extremely honoured to take up the leadership of Dumfries and Galloway, and indeed to be the first female leader, which is a privilege I had certainly not expected 3 weeks ago. Sadly, of course, my first statement in this role is to express the sympathy and condolences of this council, and I am certain of everyone across the Dumfries and Galloway, to the victims of the appalling events in Manchester and their families, and confirm indeed that the victims and their families, and indeed the people of Manchester, are all in our thoughts today. I welcome new and returning members of Dumfries and Galloway Council and congratulate you on your success in being elected. I also want to pay tribute to those former members who were not re-elected and thank them on behalf of the Council for their many years of dedicated service to their communities and their constituents. I'd also like personally to express my profound thanks to Ronnie Nicholson and Ted Thompson for their leadership in the previous administration. I and the Labour group very much look forward to working with Rob and his group and together delivering our shared ambitions for Dumfries and Galloway. To do this, we understand the need for real partnership and trust. We are committed to working together for the benefit of our communities, and we have both stepped up to that responsibility today. We are confident that we will work together effectively and constructively. And we are also confident that we will lead a respectful administration which respects all members of this council, and I hope that we will continue to work in that way. Both groups have put aside our political differences on constitutional issues to concentrate on what needs to be done in the interest of the people and communities of our region. Both parties in this partnership are committed to tackling poverty, to opposing austerity, and protecting as far as we can our most vulnerable individuals and communities from its effects. We are determined to provide the best opportunities for our children and young people, and will drive forward the innovative plans for education developed in the previous council. We are ambitious for our local economy, to promote our region's traditional strengths, farming and forestry, tourism, food and drink, culture, leisure, energy and the environment, and to seek new opportunities for economic development. We aspire to regenerate our town centres, to improve the connectivity of the region, to develop the skills of our people, and to attract others to take up employment in this most beautiful part of Scotland. This is a partnership passionate about delivering for Dumfries and Galloway. During the election campaign, both parties presented to the electorate our own priorities, and we have been able to combine these in a partnership agreement. And with 22 councillors providing an overall majority, we will be able to provide the strong and stable leadership necessary to deliver our ambitions. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. What we say today and how we say it is necessarily overshadowed by the horrific events of last night in Manchester. And like Elaine, I wish to join her in sending that great city our condolences, particularly to everyone who has been involved, to people who have been injured, to people who fear and maybe now even are not sure that they may have lost relatives and loved ones in a tragedy which is grotesque in its horror. There will be much for us to debate in the coming weeks. As Elaine has said, the administration we seek to establish today has an ambitious programme for our region, and we intend to lead this council in a slightly different manner. I think one which is characterised by partnership, by shared responsibility and by joint working. We will have much to lay out in terms of policy and regenerating our town centres, in economic development, investing in our infrastructure, revitalising public transport, and many of the key issues that we put front and centre of our respective election campaigns. But perhaps today, when our task is to establish a new council, and in the shadow of those events elsewhere, it's maybe more appropriate simply to say this. Elaine and I come from two great and recently opposing movements of Scottish politics, to which we have respectfully devoted most of our working lives, and our political differences have not been removed by the short journey from those seats to these ones, but we have established a common understanding of what we believe should be done and how we shall go about it. We shall do so in a way that shares the responsibilities of leadership in what we hope will become a resilient and collegiate approach, which will come to command the confidence of officers and members alike. We will put aside our political differences for the good of the region. Our national debate will not divert our focus from what needs to be done locally, and those expectations which we have of each other will equally be reflected in the conduct of our administration. It is an approach which I firmly believe will weather whatever unexpected circumstances and events may be in store for us, and which will sustain us through the very ambitious workload that we have set ourselves. Ellen could not have put it better. This is a positive partnership, and like her, I am very much looking forward to getting on with the job. Thank you.
We move on to declarations of interest, and I would ask if any members have any declarations of interest that they wish to make. Okay, there's nothing, nobody has anything. We can move on to item 5, the adoption of standing orders, and the report by the Director of Corporate Services. The report sets out the Council's standing orders and recommends that they be adopted. Can I invite any comment? Are we agreed to adopt the standing orders? Good. We move on to item 6, which is a scheme of administration and delegation to committees, and a report by the Director of Corporate Services, which sets out the Council's scheme of administration and delegation to committees, and in terms set out the powers of committees, their remit and composition. The recommendation in the report proposes their adoption and inclusive amendments recommended by the previous Council, set out in paragraphs 3.51 and 3.52. I know Stephen Thompson wishes to make a proposal.
Thank you, Leader. I would like to move under 2.1 that the scrutiny and audit and risk management functions are brought together under one committee. I fully appreciate both of these functions are important, It would be essential that we ensure that this important committee acts with independence and with objectivity, and that we operate it in a way that ensures the distinction between these functions is understood and the committee operates effectively. However, I do believe that governance in this council would be strengthened by having them together under one committee, and that the council would be better placed to manage change and deliver improvement. I so move.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Archie Driver.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that, Chair, and I agree totally with what Stephen actually says there about having that organisation under one committee and the potential that that can move forward with this new council. So happy to move second Stephen's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Driver. Ivor Hislop?
Just, that's sort of been sprung onto us a wee bit. Is there any chance that it would cause a conflict, the actual putting together of these, whereby we, you know, some things you do, you don't really realise, oh, that's going to cause a problem down the lane. Is there any possibility of a conflict between the two functions being brought together?
Right. Lorna Meakin can illuminate us on in this matter.
Thank you, Leader. There are a number of councils who operate audit risk and scrutiny, and the important element of creating a committee that covers those areas is to ensure that the proceedings and the approach that the committee adopt means that all of its responsibilities are fully met. So that will be a matter that we would set out with members to make sure that was the case, and ensure members of that.
Further comment? Can I move to a vote on the motion? Nobody's opposing that. We don't have any opposition to the motion. Right, Councillor Carruthers.
Thanks, Claire. I mean, obviously, we've just been through the numbers politically within the council. We know the outcome of the vote if it did go to a vote, so I don't think there's any need for that at this moment in time. But I think the council previously has kept a very close, watchful eye in regards to our scheme of delegation and administration delegation to committees. I think we should make sure that we keep that up. That's something that is at the forefront. But because of the political element within the council today, I think there's no point in it being opposed.
Okay, so we will agree the motion as proposed by Councillor Thompson. Agreed? We're also asked... We're also asked to consider the boundaries for area committees given the changes in the number of wards and members agreed by the Boundary Commission for Scotland, which came into effect at the local elections held on the 4th of this month. I will open that up to debate if councillors could express their view. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Leader. I wanted to suggest, clearly there will be a mismatch, or there is a mismatch, in fact, as matters now stand, and I think that the Statutory, which of course I would take a particular interest in, is particularly affected. However, I think it might be wise if we continue the previous arrangements for the area committee meetings that are coming up in June. The boundaries, therefore, would effectively be wards 1 and 2 in Wigton, wards 3, 4 and 5 is the Statutory Area Committee, wards 5 to 9 in Nithsdale, and 10, 11 and 12 in Annandale and Eskdale. That would allow us an opportunity to further request a report to the next full council to look at the options for locality working. The administration, I have to say, has a preference for retaining area committees. So I would like to reassure people in that regard. But there are some boundary issues, and members of the Statutory will think of Creetown, for example, and where Creetown now sits. But it strikes me that it would be logical for us to start on the existing structure we have in the first instance, and then have a report back when we've had an opportunity to consider the full implications. So I would like to suggest that as a proposal at 2.2.
Councillor Carruthers.
Thanks, Leader. I mean, nothing against what Rob's proposing there. I think it's a good idea. I think it was going through my mind as well, but I think we have a subcommittee, unless maybe I've not got to that point yet. We had a subcommittee that looked at this in particular. Would it be worthwhile putting it to that subcommittee first, then bringing it back? I've had particular anomalies within Annandale South, my own ward, and Annandale North, where geographically large chunks of those wards sit within Nithsdale, but we don't even really get the chance to speak at Nithsdale at all. So I think maybe in regards to Robert, I'd be grateful if he would consider amending it slightly so it does come. If that committee still exists, it certainly did up to the dissolution of the last council, Put it back to that subcommittee, then bring it back to full council.
To Councillor Nicholl.
Thank you, Leader. Speaking purely on from a local perspective, I would back what Rob's saying, especially with regard to the Wigton Area Committee area, because the people of Creetown and Kirkmabrek Parish have never really seen themselves as part of the Statutory anyway. They've always considered themselves to be part of Wigtonshire, so I think that is a logical move forward. And with respect of that, I can't speak for Annandale North or South. I'll let the local members for that speak for themselves.
Can I ask for advice as to whether it will go to a subcommittee before coming back to full council?
Leader, subject to members' considerations of a paper later on, and within this report there's an indication that the work of the Review of Standing Orders Subcommittee has led much of the development of the standing orders, schemes, etc. So if members were minded to retain that subcommittee, then that would be a logical place for it to be taken.
I just wonder, members, obviously, I think to give us some clarity, and particularly for our communities, if we could have that subcommittee stand up reasonably quickly. I'm just wondering, members, given the fact that we need to balance the increased wish for locality voice to be heard and engagement, along with, I think, perhaps sharpening up the role of what needs to be taken at a larger level and an area level, if we perhaps did a wider paper that considered a range of options rather than just a narrow issue around the area committee, because I think that obviously we all need to consider how we balance the wish for all members to have greater community voice with what really needs to be taken at that more strategic area committee level. So if members are willing, I'll prepare a paper and a range of options for fullest considerations of that subcommittee.
Thank you, Leader. It's just with regard to, should we really be rushing into this? Because we're in this financial year. Would it not be better to start next financial year? Because if there's area committees with money left, there'll be a squabble over who gets what share of which money, because that's always what happens. But if we started a brand new financial year with the new setup in place, then there wouldn't be any issues with regard to where the money goes, because it would be split then.
I think that's one of the things we could consider if we do it quickly. There are issues on it being quota, and which you really couldn't split down towards. So that might not. I think if we could have that debate, because I think the previous subcommittee, those members that were on it, worked really well in allowing that open dialogue, so that we can advise full council. But I think that's why I would request we do it quickly, so we don't have any uncertainty with our communities out there about plans and expectations. So if members are willing, I'd make sure that was one of the first considerations for debate.
Councillor Nicholson.
Yes, I think that's a perfectly legitimate and valid reasoning to go forward with the suggestion that we put it to subcommittee, but we get it done as soon as possible. There are uncertainties out there just now about how the way things work, and as has been, I think the subcommittee is the ideal place for it to go first, but bring it back as quickly as possible.
Okay, so can I ask if there are anybody further wishes to speak, or whether we agree, in fact, with the proposal? Oh, Councillor Nicholl.
Yeah, just from a practical point of view, would that mean that the members who represent Ward 2 would also sit in the Statutory Area Committee in the meantime, until this committee meets and comes up with its recommendations?
Well, yeah, ask Derek for some advice on that.
Thank you, Leader. There are some questions that were probably predicted, and that was one. Whether the answers is easily given, I'm not so sure. That's clearly a matter for members to determine. It could certainly be feasible that the Ward 2 could sit on Statutory. The only matter that is outstanding, as I understand it, is the grant funding. Given the funding this year has been given to Statutory for Creetown, the practical administrative suggestion I would make is that therefore if, and at this point there aren't any, but if there are any further applications coming forward from the Creetown area, that they be dealt with by Statutory, given that the funding was given to Statutory, and that's the only area of Dumfries and Galloway that is affected by this, and I'm sure therefore in these circumstances it can be dealt with that way. That would avoid there being any need for elected members to sit on both committees. Clearly, however, Leader, it's a matter for members, and they may be so minded that they wish to sit on the said committee.
Thanks for that advice, Derek. So it looks as if there's some consensus, indeed. Councillor Nicholl.
Yeah, just that is a great release that we don't have to go to Stewart Area Committee as well as Wigney Area Committee. There's only so much excitement a person can stand in their lives.
So there seems to be, I think, consensus that we should, that the Chief Executive should prepare a report on options to go to the subcommittee on what was the subcommittee? I've forgotten the name of the standing orders. Yes, it's the subcommittee on standing orders it would go to, and that they should consider the matter further and bring it back to the full council. Our members agreed with that approach? Great. Excellent. Thank you. Item 7 is a scheme of delegation responsibility to officers and statutory appointments. This report details the scheme of delegation and responsibilities. The scheme contains details of those functions, both statutory and non-statutory, which the Council has chosen to delegate to officers. The Council is also required by law to appoint certain officers, and these are known as statutory appointments or officers. These include a head of paid service, a monitoring officer, a chief financial or Section 95 officer, and a chief social worker. Further acts require the Council to appoint officers for a variety of particular purposes, and these officers are generally referred to as the proper officers for particular functions. For example, the Director of Corporate Services is the proper officer for the receipt of councillors' interests and the maintenance of records. In simple terms, the scheme sets out the duties of officers and the legislation which governs these matters. So I'll open this up to members for debate. Do we have any? Councillor Hislop.
Thank you, Leader. It's with regard to page 83, paragraph 4.1.20. All powers ancillary to or reasonably necessary for the proper performance of the Chief Executive General responsibilities. Could you quantify ancillary to or reasonably necessary for members, please, so that we know what that actually means, please?
In simple terms, the document is a live document with legislation changing all the time, and we bring matters forward to, if the current committee structure is retained, the standing order sub make recommendations to full council for changes here. This is a matter really for any matters that appear, any matters of emergency, anything that's ancillary that's not specified within this. Councillor Hislop.
Councillor Hislop, are you content with the explanation from Mr. Beacon?
Reasonably.
In that case, are we content to adopt the scheme of delegation responsibilities to officers and statutory appointments? Excellent, thank you. We move on to item 8 on committee size, proportionality and appointments to chairs, vice chairs and senior councillor positions. The report sets out information to enable the council to agree the size of committees, to agree proportionality across committees and subcommittees, to appoint chairs and vice chairs of various committees and subcommittees, and to determine which posts attract senior councillors' salaries. Paragraph 3.1 of this report sets out the size of committees agreed by the last council, which were 28 in the case of SIPL, 21, 19, 11, 7 and 5. Within the report, we are advised that on proportionality, the council uses a simple system and approach to this, and that using this approach, any members not in a political group, normally described as non-affiliated, are entitled not to be disadvantaged compared to those belonging to political groups. Paragraphs 3.4 and 3.5 describe how an opportunity should be offered to any non-affiliated member by full council to take up seats on committees. The report also outlines the requirement to appoint members to the chair and vice chair positions of various committees and subcommittees, and on the need to determine which of those positions will attract a senior councillor salary. Can I open that up to members for debate? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Maitland.
Thank you, Leader. I think just on the back of item 6, we should probably reflect that on page 139, Chair Audit and Risk Management Committee and Chair Scrutiny and Performance Committee. Obviously, that's, I think we're moving towards one committee there, so I think that's maybe something we should factor in when considering this.
Councillor Maitland.
Could I ask somebody really to explain in words of one syllable what exactly is meant by, or how we are going to deal with the issue of a single non-aligned member? Because it's not absolutely clear to me what we are in fact doing.
Whichever method of proportionality is used, even the simple method we used in this council, means mathematically that a single member is not allocated seats on any committee. Simple maths in terms of the approach to proportionality that the council has always used. Members from the previous council will remember that we took legal advice about the position of non-affiliated or single members and how they can be engaged and participate in the democratic processes. And we were advised, whatever method we undertook, that we had to assure that the full council allocates positions to non-affiliated members to ensure that they can participate in the democratic process. The position in front of you is the same as it was before, and the same position the officers advised previously, which is that it would be for full council and the political groups to determine which positions they could offer to Councillor Scobie, who is the only non-affiliated member in the council. And that would be on the basis of proportionality following this meeting, which I will advise members of, the seats that you have on the committees that are determined by this council, and therefore any positions that any group doesn't wish to take or wishes to offer to Councillor Scobie. And we can support group leaders in organising that with yourselves and with Councillor Scobie if that was a way forward.
Councillor Maitland? But taking this to absolutely extremes, if the political groups decided not to offer any positions, what then?
I would bring a report back to this council, and I would also report to the monitoring officer in terms of our approach to this and the participation of a member. So I would bring that back to council with the monitoring officer.
Any further questions? Can I ask, therefore, whether members are content that the size of the committees remain the same as they were under the previous council? Okay. Thanks for that. Do we also agree that the methodology being applied to committee membership, of which Lorna Meakin has advised us, and as is detailed at paragraph 3.4, is that methodology agreed in terms of allocating committee places to members of political groups and non-aligned members? We now move on to the appointment of chairs and vice chairs. Now, the administration group, as it now is, has a slate which we've prepared in terms of chairs and vice chairs, and I could ask if the clerk could circulate that to all members for their consideration. Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you, Leader. Leader, I wonder, once we've got that, can we take a half-hour adjournment just to consider that and come back, and half an hour would be requested from myself.
Well, would we require as much as half an hour to look at the slate?
Okay, then 15 if you're 15 minutes even. Just
okay, 15 minutes.
It's a large group.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, Councillor Marshall.
Yeah, before we take that adjournment, is there any other proposals that to be put forward by the Conservatives with regards to slate? So we can look at them both at the same time.
That's a good point. Do we have other alternatives? Have there been other proposals made by other groups who wish to have these considered at the same time?
We would like to get the chance to consider yours first. It will reflect our thoughts and consideration, taking into consideration the points I made earlier in regards to pretty much a fait accompli when it comes to the voting process today. So we'd like to consider yours, and if we feel it's a fair one, we may well agree with it.
But you don't actually have other proposals at this stage, Councillor Carruthers?
Right at this moment in time, I don't want to propose something right at this moment in time.
Okay.
I'd like to actually move just to get a chance to consider, to reflect.
Councillor Nicholson?
Chair, we've got I take it that was a motion from yourself about this slate. And, who seconded it?
Right. I'm happy to second it.
So we've got a mover and a seconder. So we've got a motion on the table. So is there any other amendment to that? If not, then that motion stands.
Leader,
They've asked for the recess first.
And that supersedes the
Okay, we have 15
original
minutes.
Move, so. Okay,
15
thanks
minutes,
very much
okay.
for that. Thank you.
Colleagues, can we reconvene now, please? And I invite Rob Davidson to move an amendment to our...
Thank you, Leader. At the risk of complicating matters, I would like to withdraw the previously circulated slate tabled on behalf of the administration and replace it with a very slightly amended new version, which I also herewith move.
Councillor Crothers?
Okay, I mean, we've certainly got an amendment which I'd like to be tabled as well. I would propose that at this moment in time. I would move that as a slate. But again, I think we discussed this earlier. I would like 5 minutes to consider your new amended proposal, 15 if preferable, but I certainly would like that.
I certainly, given that the slates are nearly complete, I think probably it's only 5 minutes that we require at this point to consider that particular change. Thanks. 5 minutes.
The only thing I would say about that, Leader, thanks very much for that, but I have a colleague that sits next to me. It takes almost 5 minutes for him to get to the room and get back. So I wonder if that could be taken into consideration, even give us 10 minutes. It does. Nothing we can do about
10
that.
minutes, yeah. Yes, Councillor Blakey. Councillor Crothers?
Leader, just if you don't mind, you've still got, in regards to one of your positions is still empty. You haven't actually fulfilled that. You've only outlined the word opposition. I wonder if you could have gave some clarity in regards to that, what your actual thoughts are.
Well, in terms of the chair of Audit, Performance and Risk and Scrutiny, that is an opposition position, and that we would take your nomination for that. Councillor Nichols.
Yeah, it was our idea that we put in Ian for the chair and Jane Maitland for the vice chair. No, we were giving you the opportunity because it might have been you, Gail. Unless are you echoing for the chair? You want? No. It's up to you to decide who fills that position.
Thanks for making that clear, Leader. Thank you.
I'll be happy if that's a motion for Ronnie. I'll be happy to second that.
Leader, sorry, because we're handing them out. If everything's been handed out, we're happy to take that 10 minutes that you've given us. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll take 10 minutes then. Nobody left? No, I think everybody's here. Yep. Okay, can we... Nobody can see anybody that's not here, no? Okay, so at the moment we have a motion, an amended motion, if you like, an alternative motion from Rob Davidson. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Archie Driver, right. And we have an amendment from Ian Carruthers. Can I have a seconder for the amendment? And Graham Nichol. Okay. Mr. Carruthers.
Just because of that small discussion afterwards, the amendment made by Rob was almost superseded, I think, by the addition of what Councillor Nicholson said as well. And as far as, was that the case in regards to the opposition positions? Could you just have that clarified to know exactly what we're voting on?
Councillor Nicholson.
I think Rob was absolutely clear about this, and as was I. The chair of the Audit, Risk and Scrutiny would be an opposition post for the Conservative Party, and if they want to argue between themselves who wants to take it, that's up to them. The opposition vice chair would be Jane Maitland, Councillor Jane Maitland, and the rest stands. That's my understanding of it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Sorry, it's also my own understanding. Is there any further discussion on the two proposals?
I'm unclear about the position of Councillor Jane Maitland. She voted in this administration and yet counts an opposition here in the Audit, Risk and Scrutiny. How does that work?
No, Councillor Maitland is not part of the partnership agreement. She's not part of the administration. How
can
we are proposing Mrs. Maitland as an opposition member as vice chair.
Right, I'm just unclear how opposition actually installs the administration and then opposes it, how that fits together.
No, the opposition, the independent members can vote on positions as they please. That is up to them to determine. They are not part of the administration.
Just a supporter.
I'm sure at times they will be supportive and at times they will not be supportive. Okay, can we move to the motion proposed by Rob Davidson and the amendment proposed by Ian Carruthers? Oh, Councillor.
Could I have a point of order, please, with regard to 10.3.2? Where there is not a consensus, votes will be taken electronically at meetings within Council Hall. We have agreed that. I take it that's how we will be taking this vote, not as in the papers.
If I can just clarify that, the standing orders are forever hopeful that we will move to electronic voting. That had been approved by the previous council, but we never ever quite got there, so the vote will be by roll call.
Can I ask then, do we need to stand down standing orders? Because standing orders are quite specific that unless we take a decision not to, which means a vote on whether we vote by roll call or electronic, then it should be by electronic as stated in 10.3.2.
Does anyone have any objection if we proceed by roll call?
Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think I remember asking this question in the last council, and I was given the assurance that the fact that we're using an electronic device to register and record our vote electronically, we might not be using the full capacity of that device at the moment, but I think it's certainly an electronic vote because we press an electronic device to actually make our vote. So I think it's a work in progress is the way I understand it.
Chair, I would move that we proceed as we're meaning to go on. We use the electronic vote and we abide by standing orders.
Councillor.
Chair, it's pretty obvious already today there's been votes as part of this new administration, new council, done by the roll call. I understand what Councillor Hislop is saying, but I'm a bit to go through another vote just to see if we're going to vote by voice or by electronic means, it's just basically a waste of time. We need to make sure eventually that we get to, as far as I'm concerned, electronic voting, and I think that's the way that council is going to go. But I think for this particular part, voting by roll call is the way to go. And if he's made that motion, I will make an amendment. We do it by roll call.
Councillor Dempster.
I think it's too late, Chair. I think we already agreed the four recommendations on agenda item 8, which issued the slate. One of the agreements is that such appointments be made in accordance with standing orders by calling the roll. So we've already agreed that for this particular agenda item, I would suggest.
Point of order. The standing orders say it will be by electronic method. So either the paper's wrong or the standing orders are wrong. Now, you can't have it both ways. And another thing, we haven't taken a vote on any issue after standing orders have been adopted. We did take votes prior to the adoption of standing orders, but not post.
Well, Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, move to stand down standing orders and do the vote by calling the roll.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder?
I'll be second.
Councillor Lee, second. Others.
Ivor's picked up on a particular point where in breach of our standing orders. Is this the right process in which to get round about those standing orders? By move of a motion that we just disregard them for this current vote? I don't know. Is that the right way ahead? Ivor just bringing up a legitimate procedural point what he feels strong about. So I would really need information and advice in regards to in regards to that. I mean, can we just disregard the standing orders that we've just agreed in real terms? We all understand the way a natural progression towards that. That's the anticipation. We've actually agreed it in black and white. How does that add up?
I think standing orders can be suspended by voting.
On today's agenda, standing orders are actually on the agenda. Therefore, the public have been given warning that standing orders are under discussion today. I appreciate standing orders do say electronically. They've said that for some time. And I rather like Councillor Thompson's explanation of how we can actually comply with the standing orders today. Therefore, I would ask that we would proceed by way of roll call. You'll have an opportunity at item 12 to move to electronic voting.
We also have a motion from Councillor Nicholson and seconded that we take a vote by roll call. Mr. Crothers.
Thanks. We haven't got an amendment yet. I just think Ivor's made his point well, and I think we should move on to the roll call. But I think Ivor has certainly made his point well.
So we're agreed to take the vote by roll call.
We're all clear that the motion is as moved by Councillor Davidson and the amendment as by Councillor Carruthers. Leader?
Motion.
Deputy Leader?
Motion.
Councillor Blake?
Amendment.
Councillor Doogie Campbell?
Motion.
Councillor John Campbell?
Motion.
Councillor Ian Carruthers?
Amendment.
Councillor Karen Carruthers?
Amendment.
Councillor Charteris?
Amendment.
Councillor Dempster?
Motion.
Councillor Dryborough?
Motion.
Councillor Fairbairn?
Amendment.
Councillor Ferguson?
Motion.
Councillor Gilroy?
Press the button. Just
clarity there. Amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Gusty?
Amendment.
Councillor Hagman?
Motion.
Councillor Howie?
Motion.
Councillor Hislop? Councillor Ingalls?
Amendment.
Councillor James?
Amendment.
Councillor Johnston?
Amendment.
Councillor Lever?
Motion.
Councillor Little?
Motion.
Councillor McGregor?
Amendments.
Councillor Maitland?
Motion.
Councillor Marshall?
Motion.
Councillor Martin?
Motion.
Councillor McClelland?
Motion.
Councillor McComb?
Motion.
Councillor McKee?
Motion.
Councillor Nicholl?
Amendment.
Councillor Nicholson?
Motion.
Councillor Ronnie?
Amendment.
Councillor Sloan? Councillor Stitt?
Motion.
Councillor Surtees?
Motion.
Councillor Tate?
Amendment.
Councillor Thompson?
Motion.
Councillor Wilson?
Motion.
Councillor Wood?
Motion.
Councillor Young?
Motion.
The motion is carried 25 votes to 15.
Thank you, Clark. And we now move on to the appointment of remunerated positions. You'll see the slate that was circulated to you had asterisks against certain names, but we can also issue a list of the remunerated positions for your consideration. Can I just proceed discussion of this by stating that the salary of the leader and deputy leader are defined by statute. However, as this is a partnership of equals, the intention is that the salary of leader and deputy leader be shared, and that we are assured that there is a mechanism which enables us to be able to do that and to still comply with the 2004 Act. The intention also of the partnership was that the vice chairs, particularly of the larger policy committees, have significant responsibility. We would wish to see them taking responsibility for certain areas of the remit of the council, and that we move away from a band 1 and a band 2 allocation of the salaries for senior councillors, and those have now been averaged. So indeed, the chairs of main committees will be taking less than they would have been, and vice chairs' salaries have been equalised. Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, Leader. Just a couple of points of clarification in that case. At item 3, we agreed that the Deputy Leader receives 75% of the remuneration paid to the Council Leader. My understanding, 48-hour rule notwithstanding, that we can't revisit a decision made by the Council, full Council. It was a decision that we agreed at item 3 within 6 months of that decision being made. So I'd like some governance clarification on that. Yeah. And I have to say, I entirely disagree that vice chairs of certain committees have the same responsibility or workload as chairs. In particular, I think it does Jeff a huge disservice not having a higher wage, because it's an incredibly onerous job being chair of education. You'll have to attend all head teacher and deputy head teacher interviews, and it tends to fall more to the chair than the vice chair, although that's a choice that you lot have made. But I do think that chairmen should have slightly more money than vice chairs.
Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Leader. No, I've been asked to speak by the Leader. Yeah, but the Leader, are you questioning the Chair? The Leader asked me to speak on this. The one thing that you did say is, yeah, that the Deputy Leaders is 75% of it, and that won't change. There won't be
Leader, I asked for governance advice on that particular question.
Excuse me, Councillor Crothers.
I'm not Councillor Crothers.
Sorry. It just sounded
wish
like
I was
you just sounded like
Crothers.
him for a moment.
Can we have one person at a time, please?
I think, to be fair, I need one question answered by the governance officer, not by.
I intend to ask the governance. I have sought advice on that very point myself, and I intend to ask the governance officer. But I brought Councillor Nicholson in because he also indicated that he wished to speak on this issue.
Thank you, Leader. What I was saying was that can you clarify that this is the Leader and the Deputy Leader, and the Deputy Leader gets 75% as in statute, but there will be an agreement between the two of you to accommodate the salaries.
I ask for advice in terms of how this can be done. Thank you.
Yes, the regulations in relation to remuneration of the Leader and Deputy Leader are quite clear. That there is a mechanism by which the responsibilities can be shared, and accordingly the salaries can be varied month to month to essentially the costs will remain the same. It's just the salary of Leader / Deputy Leader will alternate monthly. So 1 month the Leader would receive a certain amount, and the following month a lesser amount, which would be paid to the Depute.
Can I also say there's actually precedence for this in Aberdeenshire Council? Councillor Crothers.
Just so I'm absolutely clear in my own mind, Councillor McGregor, my understanding is that she's saying that in our standing order, scheme of delegation, so on and so forth, we can't revisit a decision for up to 6 months, I think it is. It's whether this fits into that particular bracket or not, and that's the point I think she's trying to get across. And if it does, then we're in an awkward position. I don't think MD's, there's a great conflict in regards to what the administrations, how they're divvying up the money amongst themselves. It's up to themselves how they do that, and you've got the vote in which to make that work. But the point is actually, in our standing order, scheme of delegation, so on and so forth, what Gail's making is that she thinks this conflicts with that. There's a conflict, so that's the point that needs to be clarified.
Well, I did, as I say, seek advice on this issue myself, and I'm advised, in fact, that there isn't a conflict. And exactly the same situation arose in Aberdeenshire, and the way in which it can be solved so it can be compliant with the legislation, but equalise the positions. And they had a position which they described as co-leadership on that particular authority. The mechanism for doing that was an alternation of salaries.
I understand that, Leader, but I think the point is that our standing orders will be different, and scheme of delegation, so on and so forth, to Aberdeen. I know there is a mechanism in which to do it. I made that inquiry myself, because I knew it may have ended up a possibility as we looked at the permutations as we were negotiating going forward. So, but is there a conflict with our processes? That's the point.
Can I take Councillor Thompson and then Councillor Gilroy?
Thanks, Leader. I don't know if I'm getting clearer or more confused as this goes on. Are we still under a stage where we've suspended standing orders as per the last vote that we took, or I'm not really clear. So whether or not we're actually abiding by standing orders at the moment, I'm not even sure, given the sort of discussion about voting and taking roll calls and whatnot. So I'll defer to the officer's advice, I think, on that one.
Councillor Gilroy?
Yeah, I think this is really interesting, but I have to say that we have standing orders in order that we can run our council effectively and appropriately, and we seem to be disregarding bits of it as and when we feel like it, and I don't think that's entirely appropriate. I think we have agreed, as we said, that I have no problem how you divvy up your money. That's absolutely up to you. But in our standing orders, it is 75% for the deputy leader, and that's what we've agreed. If we go this other way, I don't care. There's a precedent in Aberdeen. That's up to them. We have our own standing orders, and I think we should stick with our own standing orders. If you want to give half of your money away to the deputy leader, you're more than welcome to it. But I don't think it should be done this way when we've agreed our standing orders, because it makes a nonsense of having standing orders. And they're really important, and we have to stick with them, and we're getting into a muddy area where we're disregarding them as and when we feel like it. And if that's the case, we may as well tear them all up and just go as best we can. I am very unhappy with this.
If I can just try and clarify, the last decision that we made was the allocation of how much money should be attributed to the deputy leader's post. And there was a decision to be made about whether that was up to the 75% that's allowable under statute or not. So we made the decision to give 75% allocation to that post. And I think the way it has been described, that there is an arrangement that has been agreed between two parties as to how they will then divide that salary. The council is not paying out any more than is allowed by statute, which is the leader's salary as by statute, and the deputy leader's salary up to 75%. How parties decide to divide that is not changing the decision that we've made. The decision is good. This decision still stands that we're going to pay 75% of the leader's salary to the deputy leader's allocation.
Thank you, Leader. I think the Leader made a point with regard to it was Aberdeenshire or Aberdeen City, whereby they have co-leaders. Unfortunately, we do not have co-leaders. We have two specific positions of a leader and a deputy leader. Now, if the leader takes the deputy leader's sum under the legislation, according to 3.4 in the previous paper, you can only pay up to 75% for the deputy leader. That would mean Councillor Davidson, as deputy leader, would have to take 75% of the lower figure. Now, that would mean we would actually make a saving. Now, if this is what's being proposed, I think it's quite good that the leader and deputy leader are actually looking to cut the amount of remuneration that is being taken out by the leader and deputy leader post.
Councillor McKee.
Aye, thanks, Chair. I think Councillor Gilroy hit the nail on the head. You have agreed the leader and deputy leader's wages for salary for the year. What they do with their salary is up to them. It's nothing whatsoever to do with this meeting. And I think Councillor Gilroy hit the nail on the head when she said that. And that we've agreed that you've got 33,800 and 25,300 between the two of you. What you do with it, you could get to be if you like, actually. That might be a better way forward. But what you do with it is your decision, nothing to do with this committee. And we're getting involved in things that's got nothing whatsoever to do with it. We've worked by the standing orders, and we've never altered never went against the standing orders.
Councillor Driver.
Thanks very much, Chair. I mean, the recommendation in 2.4 is to make appointments up to 14 senior councillors, remunerated positions, excluding the leader and deputy. Such appointments would be made, of course, with standing orders by calling the roll. The calling the roll was on the slate. There were asterisks here. I recommend that we go forward with that recommendation.
Councillor Nicholl.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've no problem with 75% going to the deputy leader of the leader's salary. I've no problem with what you do with the other 14 senior councillors. That's up to them. But my concern is that, are we going to have a different leader each month? And if so, do we have to have a council meeting every month to appoint that leader?
No.
Could you give me clarification, please?
No, that there will not be a different leader every month.
So
it doesn't change the decisions of the council in any way. It was actually for a point of information in terms of how we've dealt with vice chairs and chairs was in line with the personal arrangement which Mr Davidson and I have come to. It's not actually a decision of the council, as others have said. Mr Crothers.
Leader, thank you. Just, I suppose the question that really needs to be asked in regards to yourself as who actually as the final say on competency is what they have been proposed competent, and that would probably put it to bed. And if it is, if we as a group have any further issues, we'd be more than willing to take this out with this full council meeting today, which we probably will have.
I have been advised that it is competent to do so. Can we move to the decision we are required to make with regard to the appointment of remunerated positions? Councillor McGregor.
I think we've been in breach of standing orders and I would like my dissent recorded.
So would I.
Yes, I would like to be, align myself with that we've breached standing orders, and I wish my dissent to be recorded.
But I understand what people are saying, but in terms of what is there, rather than my explanation as to how the positions would be dealt with regard to what is actually there on the piece of paper, we are not in breach of standing orders.
I understood Mr Evans to say that the salaries would be paid on alternating months. Aren't we in breach every second month then?
Mr Evans.
I think it would be important to note that you are paying one leader's salary per month. It's the position that attracts the remuneration, not the individual.
Thank you, Mr Evans.
So, Leader, so does that mean that when Councillor Davidson receives the Leader's appropriate salary of £33,857 for that month, he is Leader? Well, that's just what
Chair, this has been done this year.
Has been said. Can I just say, I think this is a complete and utter shambles, and I think it should be taken away, reassessed. But today, I do not think this is the right decision to be making. We're tearing up our standing orders. We're not going through the systems like they ought to be, and it's an absolute disgrace.
With respect, we have a piece of paper which is in compliance with the standing orders. And that's what we are asking you to agree is, in fact, the senior councillors, the 14 senior councillors, that's all you'll be asked to agree at the moment. And I regret actually having given you the information about how we intend to equalise the salaries. It was really only intended in comparison with what we were doing with chairs and vice chairs. But the piece of paper in front of you is not it's not contrary to the standing orders, because it does define a position, a leader's salary, a deputy leader's salary, and 14 senior councillors, and that's what we're being asked to decide.
It's already been agreed, Leader. I suggest you move on. Move on with the other debate.
Okay, are we prepared?
With respect, Leader, it has already been agreed. I stated that, but I would still like my dissent recorded at 2.4.
You can certainly record your dissent, okay? But can we move on to agree or not to agree the senior councillor positions on this? I think we had 3 councillors who wished to record their dissent. Okay. Can we move on now to the calendar of meetings? Okay. I think there were some issues. Councillor and Councillor James. Councillor McKee, we're actually on to agenda item 9 now, which is the draft calendar of meetings through to July 2018 for approval. Councillor McKee.
Thanks, Leader. It's just that I was looking at Social Work Services Committee, and there's only 4 committee meetings scheduled in this calendar. I don't know whether you want to look at a 5th one or not. But the other thing I would like to draw your attention to is Monday afternoons there's meetings. Now, I know that chairs and vice chairs very often meet their directors on a Monday afternoon after a political group meetings. So could you arrange that a Monday afternoon is kept clear for these meetings to be held? Unless there's an emergency, obviously, and you can put another meeting in. But keep Monday afternoon clear for directors and members' meetings, if possible.
Any further comment? I think can I invite any further comments on the calendar meeting?
we'll obviously have to make some changes to the calendar in light of the changes that have been made with audit and risk and scrutiny. So we will get a revised calendar out to members as soon as possible. And we're trying to get a 12-month calendar, a 12-month rolling calendar, so that at any time you can see 12 months ahead when meetings are going to take place.
Thank you, Leader. I mean, I think I'd like to make the point we've got a lot of new councillors. There's a complete new mix on the council, certainly from the Conservative point of view. And this calendar events, I think we need to review it and say 6 months, calendar meeting, sorry, in say 6 months' time. I would move that we do actually look at this again around about the back end of this year, September, October, November time, because I think we should be look at the frequency of certain meetings, how they move on. We may well be, as the administration, it's something you may well be considering anyways, but certainly looking more to I think, lead into the communities and such like. We should be looking at area committees possibly more than evening time rather than through the day. This is very much a committee, a calendar that suits an everyday working week for the average day person, but there's a large amount of the council actually have jobs out with the council as well, or commitments, and that needs to be reflected. Fair enough, for the first 6 months, give us a chance to get bedded in, but after that we need to have a look at that go down.
I've got a number of councillors who wish to speak. Stephen Thompson, Ivor Hislop and Tommy Sloan have all in. Stephen.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, it was just to echo Councillor McKee's point. I was looking through and there was only 4 instances of Social Work Services Committee. Now, I appreciate some future business may still need to be determined before there's a slot in the calendar, so I'm sure there's space made for that, but I would certainly echo the concern about Monday afternoons, especially for service committees. I can understand there's a lot of local review bodies which are called as and when business determines it, but I think but often that will only involve 5 councillors, for example. I think the service committees Monday afternoons should be considered again in terms of keeping those free. Thank you.
Councillor Hislop.
Chair, I would be supportive of that move as well, that we look to make sure that Monday afternoons are kept free for any meetings that members may require with officers. And I also would like to support Councillor Crothers on the fact that we should be looking to move our area committees back to an evening event, because on the doorsteps, that was one of the things I got, was the fact that people felt excluded because if they're at work, they can't get along to area committees. So it might be worthwhile looking at that again.
Councillor Sloan.
Yeah, thanks, Leader. I'm just looking at the Integrated Joint Board, which is to meet on this Thursday. I mean, I realise we're in partnership with it, but to give a couple of days' notice, no papers out, don't even know the makeup of that board yet, would seem a bit sudden.
Thanks for that. Councillor Gilroy.
Yes, in the previous council, I sat on EE&I, and we did get huge tomes of papers coming through. And I noticed on this one that we've got, whoever sits on that, we've got a meeting in June and not another one till September, which I know by September there will be a lot of papers. And I just don't know how well we read them if we get such an enormous agenda and quite detailed papers. And I just think we need to look at some committees that perhaps do need to meet more often than 5 times a year.
I think 5 times is a minimum, isn't it? They can meet more often than that if
well,
necessary.
but we've got a schedule here, for instance, and I've just looked quickly, and we've got for EE, and I'm just using EE as an example because I sat on that last time round. You know, we've got one on June, and we haven't got one till September. A long time for that committee because it's a really big portfolio of activity that goes on there.
I'm sure that the comments have been made will be taken on board, but I suppose the issue is whether we want to agree this at this stage, or whether, in fact, I think Councillor Carruthers has suggested that we should review it in 6 months. Can I ask the opinion of Council as to whether or not we would wish this to be reviewed in 6 months? Councillor Nichols.
Yeah, that's fine. Review it in 6 months. I think in the EI one, there is a holiday period in between as well. So.
Indeed. Can I take it the Council has agreed that we will review this in 6 months? Sorry, Councillor McKee.
It's just that if we do a review just now of the Monday afternoons, Chair, but I'm quite happy with the rest.
Yes, I think that's a very good point that's been made by several members that Monday afternoon is not suitable. Councillor Dryburn.
Just the one thing on the area committees here. There was a review coming back on the area committees that the Chief Executive would bring a further report back to full council. Do you just want to make sure that that's in place as well and the outcomes for that?
I think that was referred to earlier on in the discussion when we were looking at area committee boundaries. That this would all be a matter for discussion.
Yeah, I wouldn't look for the subcommittee report to wait for a 6-month review of the timetable. So therefore, as soon as members have concluded their discussions, the subcommittee bring it to the next available full council. So that might preempt a calendar decision at that point.
Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's important as well to allow the new ward structure and forums to take place and see how that materialises in the future, because that could have a major bearing on whether if you want to have evening meetings for area committees. Because as my understanding is, these ward forums are very much directed towards the locality and not just the area. So I think that we shouldn't rush into changing what we have for the area committee at this stage.
Yes, the Chief Executive has reassured me that this will be part of his review. So we're agreed to review in 6 months. Okay. Okay. Item 10 is the election of licensing boards. The report sets out the requirement to appoint members to each of the 4 divisional licensing boards which consider liquor licensing and gambling premises licensing. Whilst the membership of the boards is drawn from the local authority, each are separate legal entities, and members sitting on the board do so as members of the board and not as councillors. This also is a requirement for members to undertake and pass some training before they can carry out board duties. And I want to ask Rona Lewis to update the council on nominations received for the board.
Thank you to everyone who has volunteered to give an update per board. In terms of Annandale and Eskdale, at present we only have 3 people who have put themselves forward for election, being Councillors Dryborough, Thompson and Wilson. The board needs at least 5 members. I therefore ask for some volunteers for Annandale and Eskdale.
Can I ask for volunteers?
With a discussion and obviously this meeting has to take place and we want to see it right through to fruition. And we've said certainly as a point at this moment in time, all Conservative councillors on the council will put their names forward for that. That may change after the meeting depending on the discussion we have. But certainly in order to make your decision right now, it may stay exactly the same. But we'll have a discussion after this. So all Conservative councillors
So you're proposing on block all Conservative councillors become members of the appropriate licensing board?
In order to make this decision right now,
Yep. In addition to the Conservative members, therefore, for Nithsdale we also have Councillors Dempster, Ferguson, Lever, McKee and Stitt. For Statutory, Councillor Dougie Campbell, Councillors Davidson, Ferguson, Howie and Maitland. And for Wigton, Councillors McComb, Hagman and Sloan. So if members were agreed for those members to be elected. Yeah.
I'm on for Nithsdale as well. Councillor Thompson.
Thanks, Leader. Just a quick question. As a result of the names and proposals for members coming forward for that, will any of the licensing boards exceed 10 members?
If I haven't worked that out at the moment, but if any do exceed 10, then I would email all 10 and ask if anyone wants to withdraw. I've had to press gang some people, so we may have a number of volunteers. Thank you.
Are we agreed to that we elect those nominated to the 4 boards, including, of course, the Conservative councillors? And we also note the requirement to undertake the mandatory training, which apparently is currently is 30th of May and the 31st of May, although I understand that for some members that might not be, neither of those dates are suitable.
Just to clarify the training, the same training runs on the 30th and the 31st. We can accommodate people coming the morning one day, the afternoon the other, and if some members simply cannot make that training, we will have a reciprocal arrangement with other authorities who are also receiving the same training in the next month or so that we could attend a course. We may have to travel, but we will find out where other courses are taking place so that you can attend. You must complete the training within a 3-month period.
Thank you. Can we move on now to item 11, which is appointment to roles and outside bodies. The report seeks approval for appointments to roles and outside bodies by the full council in accordance with the council's scheme for representation on outside bodies, or for urgent appointments to outside bodies where the appointing committee is not the full council. Members appointed to the integrated joint board may wish to note the next meeting, as Councillor Sloan advised us, is to take place on the 25th of May, but I understand now that that has actually been cancelled. Oh, it's back on, is it? Goodness. And well, it isn't cancelled. I'm now advised it isn't cancelled, and that there are copies of the paper here. It's on Thursday in Kirkcudbright at 10 a.m. Democratic Services have the papers there. We actually, again, have drawn up as the administration a slate of individuals for each of the positions rather than going through them one by one. I wondered if other councillors wish to see those, and if there is a requirement for a short break in order to have a look at those. Councillor Dryburgh.
Thank you very much, Chair. And understanding that withdrawing of delegations may be part of the, or is part of the process. I mean, one of the areas where there is no appointment is in the role of the council's events champion, and the delivery of the council's major festival and event strategy contributes to the council's priority of building the local economy. And the council has an important position of an events champion who represents and promotes our strategy and the events it supports. The summer programme, much like the IGB, is actually starting this Friday with the Dumfries and Galloway Arts Festival. So I wonder if it would be important to withdraw delegation from Community Committee to actually get that appointment made today.
So, Councillor Dryburgh, are you moving that we do so? Yes. Okay.
Just in regards to, very keen to see a slate and get a deferral for up to 15 minutes, if that's possible. Yep.
Can I first ask about whether we have agreement that we appoint an events champion, as suggested by Councillor Dryburgh? I think I probably need a seconder for that as well. Okay, David, seconded. Okay, Councillor Ferguson?
Yeah, are we just agreeing to withdraw delegation from the social work department at the same time, and then we can get on with the business afterwards? So, yeah, let's get the two withdrawals out of the way.
Is that agreed? So we'll circulate the proposed slate for positions and take a recess for 50.
Thanks for doing that, Chair. I would nominate Adam Wilson if it's not on the slate already for the events champion.
Thanks for that. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I point out also that the slate is not complete. There are a number of positions which actually do require to be filled, and there's also a number of positions for members of other groups, and you may wish to, during the adjournment, to consider who you wish to put into those positions. Councillor Hislop.
It's with regard to 2.10, we've already agreed to withdraw delegation from other committees. Could we just agree to withdraw delegation from this Dale Area Committee there? And the other point with regard to that is the fact that every year for the last 5 years when I've been on that, the meeting is held when Nithsdale Area Committee is on, and you can't attend both at once. I've not been able to split myself into two. I might have the size to do that, but I haven't physically been able to do that. So it might be worthwhile either looking at the date clashes or speaking to the Moorheads Trust to see if they can move it.
Thanks, Rona.
If I can just come back on that, Councillor Hislop, I've been in correspondence since this time last year with John Henderson and Sons about the clash of dates, and we specifically advised them of when we thought we'd be having our full council this year, so that we could actually get members and hopefully get them to a meeting for the first time. So they're aware of our attempts to ensure that happens this year.
So we'll... Okay. I'm advised that lunch has arrived, so if people wish to combine the adjournment with lunch, then we can come back. Okay, is that acceptable? Yes. Yeah, maybe half an hour in that case, give people half an hour to have lunch. I'd invite members to reconvene, and they've had time, everybody's had time to consider the slate that has been proposed for appointments to roles and outside bodies. I would invite anybody on to either indicate whether they're in agreement with this slate or whether or not you have an alternative slate you wish to propose. Mr. Carruthers.
Thanks very much, Leader. I think in as far as we've looked at your slate, we've considered it, and we feel it's very much weighted towards the administration, which is to a degree understandable. But we did agree earlier on through a proportionality, through our committee decisions, that we'd do most things as much as we could on a proportionate basis. So we've got a simple motion, is that we should agree to these outside bodies today on a proportionate basis. And we've got in order, we've seen the heavy workload at what Councillor Wilson's got, and we feel that that workload could actually be spread across the region. And we've proposed two young people's champions, and that would include Andrew Justy as well. So quite simple on a proportionate basis, as it isn't within here at the moment, and Andrew Justy would share the workload in as far as the young people's champion.
Slightly confused there. You're actually not going to nominate anybody for alternative people for these positions then? Just
we propose on the individuals, depending on the outcome of the vote and how it goes forward, that we would appoint as soon as the meeting was finished. We would come back with the members on the particular organisations, but we think it's fair that it's dealt with on a proportionate basis.
Okay.
And we have to get that,
so that
dealt with first.
That's your motion, is it? Can I, Ronnie Nicholson?
I'm slightly confused about this. How the young people's champion, for example, is on a proportionate basis. If you have, two, one from the Conservatives, one from the administration. Slightly confused about that.
I can put that into context, Leader, if that's okay. If you look at the vote share across Dumfries and Galloway, 39% nearly for the Conservatives. SNP and Labour combined was just around about the 40%, I think, or just over 41. So that's pretty much 50-50. So that's sharing the workload across, if you look upon it in that proportionate basis. So we do think, I think that Councillor Wilson will make a great job, a young councillor, enthusiastic. We looked at he's got a lot of work ahead of him. I think he'll be doing this almost full time as well as his university work, but we just think that's fair. We're all asking for a bit of fairness.
I think it's probably up to Councillor Wilson to determine whether he has the time or not. But Councillor Wilson.
Can I just ask Councillor Carruthers for a wee bit of an apology? I don't think that my personal life and my work life needs to come into this discussion. I would certainly not bring in any other councillor's personal or professional life into this.
I absolutely do apologise if there's any offence taken by yourself. There was no offence meant whatsoever, Councillor Wilson. I'll just try to put it into context.
Councillor Ryber.
Thanks very much, Chair. We had the opportunity there during the break to have a look at the slate, and the slate as is, I think, is important. Obviously, having the events champion, as suggested before the break, if when you look at proportionality on some of these, it wouldn't work. For instance, because the thematic is normally the chairs of certain, committees and things like that. So I would suggest that we go forward with the slate as is. I'm happy if you want to make an amendment, I'm happy to do that. Could I add one other thing, Leader, and it's about the Armed Forces thing. Over recent years, the Armed Forces Community Covenant has actually changed somewhat. They used to have the Community Covenant grant scheme, used to have the Community Covenant, we had the Employers Covenant, things like that. There is only one covenant now, which is the Armed Forces Covenant. And I would like to make a suggestion that we as a council reaffirm the Armed Forces Covenant, because you don't need to change anything other than the name from the Community Covenant to the Armed Forces Covenant, and I'm happy to take that forward.
Yeah. That would be a separate motion, though. Yeah. Mr. McGregor.
Thank you, Leader. I think perhaps the benefit, for those of us that have experience, we're fully aware that the thematic boards are usually populated by chairs of the service committees, and I think that's entirely reasonable and practical. I think in relation to the proportionality, it's specifically in relation to the Strategic Partnership, Pension Board, South of Scotland Alliance, COSLA, and actually Swestrands. I think it's utterly disgraceful that there is not a member of the largest party in Dumfries and Galloway on our Strategic Transport Partnership. I think it's a huge disservice to our electorate. So I would ask for a bit of fairness and that you don't entirely shut us out. I think it's very unreasonable to do what you've done. And as I say, I think the proportionality is more specifically to the committees or the external bodies that have 5 or more people sitting on them.
Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you, Leader. I would take that. I was going to move that as an amendment. Archie's brought up a legitimate point, and it's specifically around about the thematic causal positions. Yep.
Councillor Nicholl.
Thanks, Leader. I'm happy to second Councillor Carruthers' proposal.
Excuse me. We have an amendment from Councillor Dryborough. Do we have a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Nicholl.
Just to make it plain, this is including the events champion and the proposal being Adam Wilson for that as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So can we move to a vote? Presumably it's acceptable for that to be by roll call.
Is everyone clear on the motion and the amendment?
Councillor Wood.
Just for clarification, are we also looking at equality in that event?
I'll go back to my just to clarity in regards to my motion, Leader. Going back to the decisions we made earlier on about proportionalities, particularly on committees and so on and so forth. We're looking at that. Take away the thematic boards. We would have no objection in regards to the events champions position either. In regards to that, that's one position at the bottom. We think that would be a good working relationship. You spoke about better working amongst the councillors. We think that would be a good way at least to start, get the first rung on the ladder, get that started in which to share that position. So in the thematic boards, absolutely, we agree that should be senior council positions within the administration. If we were in your position, we would have the exact same stance. But other than that, it's very disproportionate. We are not getting a proportionate share. So that's just for clarity.
We'll move to a vote.
Okay. Yeah, we have a motion from Councillor Carruthers concerning the appointment to roles in outside bodies that would move to the allocation being on basis of proportionality, with the exception of the Adult Protection Committee, the COSLA thematic boards, and those to which there is one appointment as champion. There's also a proposal that the Young People's Champion be a shared position with Councillor Goosty.
Justy, I think it is. Yep, that's right.
Leader?
Amendment.
Deputy Leader?
Amendment.
Councillor Blake?
Motion.
Councillor Doogie Campbell?
Amendment.
Councillor John Campbell?
Amendment.
Councillor Carruthers Ian?
Motion.
Councillor Karen Carruthers? Councillor Charteris?
Motion.
Councillor Dempster?
Amendment.
Councillor Dryborough?
Amendment.
Councillor Fairbairn?
Motion.
Councillor Ferguson?
Amendment.
Councillor Gilroy? Councillor Goosty?
Motion.
Councillor Hagman?
Amendment.
Councillor Howie? Councillor Hislop?
Motion.
Councillor Ingalls?
Motion.
Councillor James?
Motion.
Councillor Johnston? Councillor Lever?
Amendment.
Councillor Little?
Amendment.
Councillor McGregor? Councillor Maitland?
Amendment.
Councillor Marshall?
Amendment.
Councillor Martin?
Amendment.
Councillor McClelland?
Amendment.
Councillor McComb?
Amendment.
Councillor McKee?
Amendment.
Councillor Nicholl?
Motion.
Councillor Nicholson?
Amendment.
Councillor Ronnie?
Motion.
Councillor Sloan? Councillor Stitt? Councillor Surtees?
Amendment.
Councillor Tate?
Motion.
Councillor Thompson?
Amendment.
Councillor Wilson?
Amendment.
Councillor Wood?
Amendment.
And Councillor Young.
Amendment.
The amendment is carried by 25 votes to 15.
Move on to agenda. Councillor Driver.
Yeah, thanks very much for that. Just to come in, I wonder, just going back to the point
sorry,
I made
yes,
earlier
of course.
about the reaffirming of the Armed Forces Covenant, and I wonder if we ask as a full council for Derek in charge of communities to take that forward and get the reaffirmation of the Armed Forces Community Covenant, the Armed Forces Covenant being in place for perhaps in a couple of months' time.
Mm-hmm. Are you wishing to take that as a motion?
If there's no dissent.
Yeah, I just, yeah. Thank you. Okay, is that agreed by the council? Excellent. In terms of the appointments to roles and outside bodies, there are a number of vacancies, and I would invite the Conservative Party to put forward names for those vacancies.
Leader, I wonder if you'd go back to the point I made earlier, and as far as we'll make them appointments straight after
Okay,
this meeting.
that's fine. That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, if we can move on to item 12, electronic voting, paperless meetings and committee management. There's a report providing an update on the initial pilot of a paperless working undertaken by a small group of elected members and proposes progressing a project to enable paperless committees on a phased basis. The report also seeks members' consideration of a move to electronic voting in the Council Hall and advises members of the progress on the procurement of a new committee management system and associated benefits. Members I am sure members will be aware that the microphone consoles in the Council Hall also have the facility to provide for electronic voting, which up to now has not been utilised. And it is appropriate for the new council to consider if it would wish to use the facility for meetings held in the Council Hall, and if so, whether this be for all meetings or an agreed list of meetings. The report provides an update for members on a pilot of a paperless working undertaken by a small group. The proposal is to agree to move to paperless meetings on a phased basis in consultation with political groups. This interim proposal, aligned with the intention to procure a new committee management system, will deliver significant benefits to the council, elected members and the general public. Paragraphs 3.4 to 3.7 of the report set out in more detail the opportunities which will be made in exploiting this approach, and I would open the matter up to members for debate. Councillor Dryburn.
Thank you very much. Here, as one of those on the pilot scheme, I really liked the idea of going paperless during the sort of 2 or 3 months that we had the opportunity. But then, come the new council, there was some issues with the iPad and phones and things like that. So the issue for me is eventually do we go there? I think it's right that we actually try to get there, but I think in some cases members may have eyesight problems and things like that when they're reading off electrical equipment. And I think for this this next year, we should be going in a much slower way forward. I think it's right that the opportunity for members to go paperless is there, but I also think it's right for the opportunity members have paper copies is there as well, for the reasons that I've stated with regards to their eyesight and things like that. There may be some people who don't have the ability to read that type of thing properly. So I'm all for going to paperless for those that wish to, but I think it's up to members to advise member services whether they can go that or not.
Councillor Maitland.
Thank you. I was part of the pilot and did actually find it quite difficult. I gather the new committee system will, management system will make dealing with the papers easier. I think we should try. I think we should do it cautiously. I think we should start with subcommittees to begin with, and we should take it very slowly because it will be difficult to manage. As far as the electronic voting system, leader, I think that's something which, again, we should try, but we should definitely give ourselves an opportunity to come back and review it. So it should be done with a 2-month or 3-month trial period, and we must definitely review it because if we set off, and some people really, really like it and others don't, we need to explain to people what is the problem and whether it can be amended in any shape or form. So I think we should do both. I think it would be appropriate, certainly as far as paperless is concerned, to start sooner rather than later. If you run a joint system, I'm not sure we will ever move across. But I have to I have to take advice as to how we manage the problems of people being unable to read electronic screens.
Chair, maybe I'm taking over former Councillor Geddes' role as being the Luddite. I've sat in this room and people who were using the electronic system would say, what page are we on? Where are we now? Because we were busy trying to close one and open one. I'm also told by a member of my group who was on the thing that actually trying to concentrate in the debate when you're trying to flick through pages is quite difficult to do. Now, I'm a man, I can't multitask, so therefore I may have that same issue. So I have a bit of sort of reservation about going paperless because I like to be able, as you would have seen earlier, to flick back and say, at this point, this is said, and at that point, that's said. I think that might be difficult when you're sitting scrolling down all the time or scrolling up. With regard to the electronic voting system, I think it was demonstrated this morning the current one works well, and I do understand that the administration may have concerns with the actual pressing the buttons, because I think there was a party in Parliament had a trouble with that in a budget issue or something once. So if we're going to stick with the roll call, I'm happy with that as well.
Councillor Gilroy.
Thank you. I too was one of the piloted people, and with regards to the paperless thing, I can understand why we want to do it, because we have a lot of paper and that is seen as a bit wasteful. But we have to have a better system than we piloted, that is for certain sure, because it was cumbersome, it wasn't easy, got fed up with it, and you just long to get back to your paper thing. So it's not right yet, that is for certain sure. With regards to the electronic voting, can I ask how you see how people have voted? Does it come up on a screen with names? Because I'm just concerned about planning, which is a very, it's where the public are here and they like to see what goes on. And I would suggest that still requires a roll call in there just for them to understand how people have gone, because it's the one committee where the general public do take part and do want to see how things have gone. So I would be a bit dubious about it. I quite like the roll call, if I'm being perfectly honest. I wouldn't worry about going electronic on that one for all the time it takes. So that's my two.
Councillor Nicholson.
Yes, and that was very kind of Archie to just try and disguise somebody with difficulty with eyesight. I do have difficulties with a screen, and it's a very short period of time that I have that difficulty. So I think the individuals must be taken into consideration on that, and I can't adjust that with I can't adjust that with glasses or that. It's something internal. But so yes, I think the idea of paperless and that is a good idea, but there are issues with it. And if you put it out to our subcommittees first, I might be on a subcommittee, and I wouldn't be able to use it for a long period of time. So.
And Councillor Sloan.
Yeah, maybe just first to assure Ivor that he's not the only Luddite in the council. I mean, I certainly, any paperwork, I need paperwork for trouble with my eyesight, etc. If he's given me 5 years to catch up, I'm sure I'll get there. But as long as meantime all my work comes to me in paper form.
Yes, I'd just like to make an observation as a new elected member. We've been issued with the iPads. I am yet not able to go on the internet, so I totally rely on paper being issued at this moment in time. And I don't know how long it will be until we get that sorted. And I know there's certain places where some of the new elected members just don't have internet access. So I think that really should be borne in mind.
I don't think you're the only council member who's run into that problem from what I'm hearing. The feeling I get from the meeting is that, and I think it certainly ties in with my own experience when some of this has been piloted when I was in Scottish Parliament, is that some people like paperless and some people don't. And moving to a paperless system really would not suit all members, and I think there probably needs to be the option of people still having paper when that's actually the best for those people. That's how they work best. And also on electronic voting, would I be correct in saying that the view seems to be that nobody's particularly against the current system of voting by roll call? Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks, Leader. We've got quite a simple electronic recording system just now, because this has been recorded. When I say motion or amendment, that's recorded. And the big thing is that the members of the public out there, who are maybe sitting in the room next door, or on occasions along the back rows here, and sometimes right along behind you, being at the back of your neck, they want to know there and then who's voting what, because that's public accountability. So I actually think, and then even then, when you then build in the cost of procuring a new system, right, when we're kind of looking here at a hybrid, to me doesn't make much sense.
The recommendations are, first of all, whether we want to consider the use of electronic voting. Are we agreed that we don't want to move to electronic voting in the Council Hall? I can confirm that there have been problems in the Scottish Parliament with it from time to time as well. It's quite easy to make mistakes and not realise until afterwards that you've made a mistake. Agreed. It's agreed that we're going to stay with roll call for voting. Okay. In terms of paperless, the recommendation is that we approve the move to paperless meetings on a phased basis, commencing with smaller subgroups, and if it's agreed in consultation with political groups. Now, is that recommendation sufficient to cover some of the concerns that members have expressed? Yeah, Councillor Dempster.
You might need to add, Leader, that unless otherwise requested by members, they might want, or words to that effect, so that they can indeed ensure they get paper copy if they feel it's appropriate.
Yes, I certainly would agree with that. I think Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks. It would be, probably the wording would be somebody with a protected characteristic, i.e. somebody the Quality Act covers, and that would be could be sight, could be hearing, could be anything. Because if you go paperless, I've not seen, we've got some voice stuff on softwares, but I've not seen one with Braille yet, for example. So I don't mean to be flippant by that. What I'm getting at here is it should be because somebody has got a particular condition that stops them actually using the online system per se. That's what I'd be kind of suggesting here.
I think that would be up to the individual councillor without putting a spotlight on them.
Can I ask for a bit of clarification in terms of the capability of members to decide whether or not they want to use a paperless system?
I think ultimately it's got to be by consensus, so members would retain the right to indicate whether they wish to go paperless or retain paper in the absence of a definitive decision by the council.
So are we prepared to approve the recommendation after that advice? Are we prepared? Sorry, Councillor Gill.
Just to be helpful, that we'd piloted a scheme before the elections, and to a man, I think we all that were on that scheme said it didn't work. It was cumbersome. It was difficult to manage, and we found it didn't work. So I'm just kind of wondering if I assume our IT lot are getting something else in, because what they gave us to pilot was patently not suitable. So I just wonder if we shouldn't just try and pilot it again, rather than agree to launch into this paperless society and see if we can get a more efficient, effective means of being paperless, because we didn't get it right the first time, and we need to. I think we do need to try it, and I don't know that we all need to try it in order to find out whether it's any good or not. I think perhaps that group that did it before could be guinea pigs again. I don't know. It's just a suggestion.
Councillor Driver.
Yes, Chair, I think 2.3 covers exactly what Patsy's saying. If we buy the new committee management system and then we pilot it again, that's the way to go forward. I think that's right. And again, that provides us opportunities, as it says in the recommendation, to streamline the process, as well as, you know, get some more experience for the users of that previous pilot scheme. So I think we need to see what we're actually doing first, and then repilot that scheme before we go paperless. I'd be happy with that.
Councillor Heslop.
Thank you, Leader. It's just on Councillor Driver's point. Wouldn't we be better piloting the different models, if there's different models out there, then going to purchase? You know, if you want a new car, you go and test drive it, then you purchase, rather than purchasing something that might not be suitable.
Nick, could you maybe explain?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can help members there. There are, we're certainly looking at a number of more modern systems than the one we've currently got. I think the pilot we undertook was a bit of a hybrid system, so it's based on the committee management system we currently have, but with some work behind the scenes in terms of trying to get papers into a format that you could read paperlessly. Now, I'd be the first to admit that wouldn't be the easiest solution for members to use because of the numbers of files involved and the way you had to save things. The systems we're looking at actually provide for paperless within the system, as it were. So it's all in one document. You're not having to flick between different documents and save things elsewhere. It's all done via apps for those members of you who may have experience in those. And it also, the new systems provide for much greater flexibility and transparency for members of the public who are able to subscribe to committees, issues, and will receive alerts when agendas are published or issues are published in which they've indicated they've got an interest. So it's the new systems are more web-based, so it's a lot more interactive and more intuitive experience. So it's certainly a lot simpler. The systems we're looking at also, it's not an add-on, there's no additional cost. Whether you choose to implement paperless or not, you get it when you buy these systems. So it's more of the bells and whistles. It's not actually having to go out and buy a particular module or anything. You buy the system, you get everything. It's up to you as to how you deploy it.
And in terms of the, if you like, repiloting the new system, is there opportunity to do that so that rather than launch into
certainly once
it to all the subcommittees?
Yeah, certainly once we've procured a new committee management system, it's quite straightforward to run another pilot and see how members find that.
Would there be general agreement to that proposal that we?
Yeah, that'd be good, but individual circumstances taken.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, with the proviso that members who do not want to use paperless or cannot use paperless, that they're not forced to do so. Councillor Driver?
Thanks, Leader. It's coming back to what Ivor says, it's try before you buy side of things. So obviously, as you say, there's some on the market, but if we're going to try it, let's try it without buying it. If it does come back that we didn't want to use it, let's make sure that we've got everything in place first before we do.
Will we agree to proceed on that basis?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just want to take the opportunity to maybe come in with something else, but it's not related to the tablet. It's related to the phones. I don't know about anybody else or whether they haven't bothered. I know some of the new members wouldn't have had that. But the previous communication device we had, and I'll steer away from advertising the name, but it was good. You could actually have it in Bluetooth in your car, etc., and it was a good tool for working. But this one you can't use Bluetooth in the car, for example, so that it's got its limitations and what you can do with it. So I would ask that there should be looking at that. And
I think there are a number of problems with the IT which various members have encountered, which probably need to be taken up with IT. I think most of us have had some problems or others. I think I don't know if that's necessarily a matter for discussion here, but you know, there needs to be a discussion with IT that people are not finding that the systems are as comprehensive as the previous one, and certainly there are problems with some of the iPads and so on as well.
I think, you know, but we were talking about making life easier for, you know, accessibility, and but we can't do it, you know, with these phones. And, you know, I was quite happy to keep the old one, but I've got voiced with this one, but you can't use it in the car, which is, you know, by Bluetooth, you can't do other functions in it.
Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks. I actually totally agree with that, because I try to Bluetooth the car. Given some of us at different times could be 2-3 hours in the car, just getting here and home again. Effectively, that's 4 or 5 hours you're out of communication. Now, whilst I appreciate it's not going to be every day and every 5 minutes, and I think on this occasion we need to give the IT through the Chief Executive a political direction that we want the Bluetooth available in our cars, because it's the safest way of doing it. Because anything else other than that is illegal. So, and if you're on the A75, for example, do you really want to pull over and stop if you're expecting it, or if there's an urgent phone call comes in? I would suggest not. So we need to do something here, and we need to set a message out from the elected members. It's what we need to do, make our job easier, that counts here, and for them to find a solution and get around that.
Councillor Hislop.
Chair, I might not be such a Luddite after all. I can get my Bluetooth to work on my phone. Just, yes, no problem.
Councillor Marshall.
Chair, I think there's a number of issues that members have experienced, both new and returning members, with regards to both the IT equipment, the laptop, tablet, getting access at home, the telephones, etc. So it's maybe if someone from IT, etc., who's responsible, can actually just email around the councillors, ask them what the issues are. Let's get get the main issues and let's try and get them sorted out.
I think so long as people get internet access to get their emails. But yes, I think that would be a good idea to feedback, because there clearly have been a lot of problems that members have encountered over the last couple of weeks. Councillor James.
Couldn't we be given compatible cars, the new Tesla, for example?
I doubt it. Okay, right. I think we've probably got a direction there that is quite clear in terms of the way that we want to progress. Good. Elected member training, item 13, sorry. That's 3. The proposed training and development programme for 2017-18, which aligns closely with the continuing professional development CPD framework for elected members in Scottish local government. And when there was a briefing yesterday, a very small part of which I actually attended, with representatives from the Improvement Service, and I would invite any comments from members in terms of the training and development programme. Councillor Dryburn.
Thanks very much, Chair. I mean, I'm pleased that this is actually here, and it was on the last time as well when new elected members were there. And I just wanted to ask one question, and it's about the personal development side of things. Will there be one-to-one with single elected members, and who with?
Yep, thanks, Leader. Yes, Councillor, we have a dedicated member of our team, training unit, and her name is Janice Jordan. And she will be making contact with members over the coming weeks to offer an individual personal development plan. And that it's a voluntary, but we hope as many will take that offer up as possible.
Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks, Leader. Just to ask the officers if any of all of these courses will actually get you credits in the Open College Network, or towards VQs or degrees or any other external qualification.
Jack.
Thanks, Leader. Some of the training opportunities are obviously linked to committee and improved learning. Some of the opportunities through the improvement service, which are a bit heavier, I would need to go back and check, Councillor, if those are accredited, but I'm happy to do that and clarify for you.
Do we agree the elected member prospectus and development programme then? Okay, agreed. And do any members have areas of learning development that they feel are appropriate to be added to the proposed development. Mr. Thompson.
Thanks, Leader. To be fair, I spoke with the officer the other day. It was really just a suggestion about maybe enhancing our knowledge of corporate governance. Obviously, it's a topic that's raised above the parapet today, but also I think just given the number of different groups and bodies and community entities we'll be working with, I think it's good to have I think it would be a valuable tool to make up a mixture of the ingredients of all the things we're able to kind of draw upon in terms of how we support community groups and how we carry out our business. So I think that's the only comment I would add to that.
Good point. Any further comment? Okay. Issue dealt with. We've now agenda item 14, which is the minute of the meeting of the 28th of March this year.
Move.
Seconded.
Okay. Thank you. And we've got a number of minutes for approval and noting. Right. We've got them all just there.
There are some minutes where we only have one member who has been returned to the council. Therefore, we will on this occasion accept the recommendation of one member that the minutes should be approved. There are 2 minutes, the Sherrar Common Good Fund minutes that only Councillor Scobie is able to move. I would therefore suggest that these go straight to the Common Good Fund for approval at the next meeting and then come here for noting at the next full council.
Marshall.
I noticed as well, just on that Uncommon Good one, I'm the only member out of the 3 that you've got down there. I think there are 2, one's not attended today and the other one's left the meeting. So would that same apply to that one, Uncommon Good?
We'd accept your recommendation of the minute there, Councillor Marshall. Thank you.
Right, okay. We move to moving and seconding of the minutes. Uncommon Good Fund Subcommittee of the 22nd of March.
Happy to confirm.
And your seconder? That's it. There's no seconder. That's the one that hasn't got a seconder. Right, okay. Yes, good. Annandale and Estate Area Committee, business 22nd of March 2017.
I'm happy to move, Chair.
Seconder? No seconder in this case either. Children, Young People and Lifelong Learning Committee of 21st of March.
Happy to move. Happy to second.
Thank you. Dumfries Common Good Fund Subcommittee, 27th of March.
Happy to move.
Happy to second.
The George D. Grant Memorial Fund Subcommittee, I think there's only one person present. That was it.
I would move that these are a true record, both of the 5th and the 24th of April.
Thanks for that. A licensing panel of the 13th of April.
Happy to move, Chair.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Minutes of the local review body of the 27th of March.
Happy to move.
Happy second.
Thank you. The Nithsdale Area Committee business of the 22nd of March.
Happy to move.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Planning Applications Committee of the 23rd of March.
Happy to move. Happy second.
Planning Applications Committee of the 18th of April.
Happy to move.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Statutory Area Committee of the 15th of March.
Happy to move. Happy to second.
Thank you. It's wrong. We can't do. Statutory Area Committee, Statutory Area Committee of the 25th of April. That's one that we haven't. We'll have to send that back. And the Wigton Area Committee of the 28th of February. The Wigton Area Committee of the 22nd of March. Jim, was it? Yeah. Same. I think we can't move any of these ones, can we? Jim can do the area committee of the 22nd of March. Right, thanks. And the others will have to be remitted. Oh, no, Jim, you can do with the area committee of the 19th of April. I think that's it. Right, thank you. I think that's business complete for today, so thank all members for their attendance.
Well done, Chair.